Hello, everybody, and welcome to Madden Benz Unfiltered this week. Tim Benz and Mark Madden brought to you by Rush to Crush Cancer. It's more than a bike ride, it's a mission. Join us May 19th for the Rush to Crush Cancer bike ride. To register, go to rushtocrushcancer.org and help us in the fight against cancer. Join the ride. And we're here after the Jaromir Jagr jersey retirement night at PPG Paints Arena. I've got my Jagr Clydno shirt on in recognition of Jagr as he goes back over. I assume, Mark, to play with them at some point in the next week again. Only, I think, 4 or 5 points so far, but I think he's going to continue playing.
Yeah, they stink. They're in danger of getting relegated. They do promotion and relegation.
Yeah.
They're in danger of going down to the AAA league. They're in the elite league this year, I think, though. I think they got promoted within the past 2 years.
Isn't Marty Straka's team in first place, and wasn't that part of the reason why he couldn't be there last night?
Marty's team is prominent and battling for something. So, yeah, he couldn't take leave to be there last night.
But it was a great night. Mark and I were both there. We really enjoyed the festivities. I wrote about it today at Trib Live, and Mark, I was kind of struggling to find the exact angle. What did I want to write about? Was there a specific quote? Was there a specific moment? That sort of thing. And I just ended up writing about the emotions overall because normally for a jersey retirement, it's pretty basic. The guy comes back, everybody claps, they hoist the jersey up, and everyone's been reminiscing about the great times that were had. But it wasn't always easy, and it was at times very bumpy between Pittsburgh and Jagr. And a lot of that got brushed aside finally yesterday, and I think that was important. The emotions of the night really did grab me.
Yeah, there was some horse manure spread. The notion that Jagr would have played his whole career here had finances dictated. Yeah, if the Penguins could have paid the most, which I don't think they were ever going to be able to do in the long run. The deal that he signed with the Flyers instead of Pittsburgh when he came back from the KHL because he thought his career would be lengthier if he came with Philadelphia. If he would have come to Pittsburgh and it doesn't work out, he just signed someplace else the year after. You know, he went to Philadelphia for the most money. He made every decision for the most money. He played in Siberia for the most money. And I'm not trying to detract from last night or Yags, not by any means. Last night was absolutely brilliant. He seems in a very good place in his life, almost zen with the way he talked. But Yags played for 9 NHL teams because he went where the money was.
Right, exactly. And, you know, talking about, I thought
and again, whoever takes the sound bites out of this to put them on Twitter, I'm not being critical. I'm being factual.
True. And, you know, I thought he was very prescient in how he talked about the return to the NHL from Avangard Omsk when he ended up going to the Flyers. And I've kind of forgotten this. It's kind of gotten cloudy in my recollection, but it is true in that we sort of thought of this as a 1 year, come back to the Penguins and let's see how it goes and you'll help us get back to the Stanley Cup again. Not really calculating that, okay, if that were to happen, that he would have had to leave a second time. You know, like that would have happened. He would have eventually ended up leaving a second time again.
No question. And his reasons for not returning when he came back from Siberia were sound. He probably would have been a top 6. The Penguins weren't that stacked where he wouldn't have played like on Malkin's line.
Right.
He would have been a good fit for Malkin. They play a relatively similar game, although each needs the puck a lot. But he wouldn't have been on the right circle on the power play for sure. And that is big to him. That's where he operates. That's where he gets points. So that one thing, more than any other, is probably why he didn't return to Pittsburgh at that time.
Yeah, and I suppose theoretically, the power play thing aside, theoretically, they could have gotten to the Jagr has his own line, like Kessel has his own line thing 4 years earlier than they did.
Jagr wouldn't have seen it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Jagr would have seen it as being on the third line.
Yeah.
So, again, his reasons for not coming back were very sound, but I just know what they really were.
That said, though, you know, like I was talking about before, usually don't have that many emotions involved in a jersey ceremony. It's all one feeling, but I think a lot of feelings came together, and that's what made it what it was yesterday.
It was brilliant. Jagr's speech was one of the best I've ever heard in that circumstance. Staggy was brilliant as the MC. They chose wisely, having Craig speak briefly, but that was it. I know a lot of people said Mario should have spoken. If Mario speaks, he steals part of the pop. he was deployed in exactly the correct fashion. There's going to be a time for Mario to talk at some point in the future, very likely. So again, everything was absolutely perfect. A few were notable by their absence, like Mike Lang couldn't be there. As you mentioned, Marty Straka couldn't be there. I thought it was funny.
Covey wasn't there. That's another one I thought of.
Yeah, I don't know that Covey and Yags were close. They played together.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was amusing. Mike Needham was there. They invited all the guys back from the 91 and 92 teams, and he could make it. Good for him. I think he scored in that series against the Rangers, too, when everybody was hurt in 92.
Well, didn't Steige say that? Like, Steige's like, one of the heroes of the 92 series against the Rangers.
He
Mike
was.
Needham.
He was.
Yeah. But he pumped him up.
It was really good, and it was good to see Yags and just bathe in that. It was wonderful.
Yeah.
I'm so glad his mother was there. His young hot girlfriend was there. He made the joke about, she's too young to remember me playing in Pittsburgh. And it's funny. I don't think he saw that as a joke.
No, I don't think he did either. I don't think he delivered it like it was supposed to be a punchline or anything, but it came out funny for sure.
Yeah. So it could not possibly have been better. The column I'm writing, Tim, is who will be the next Penguin number to be retired? And I think that's a subject to some debate because I think they intend to keep it very selective. I think, again, I'll go into detail in my column. I think the only locks are Crosby and Malkin.
They are locks. I do think they'll put Fleury up there because they know his popularity and it will sell.
Once you start putting the popular guys up there, it's a slippery slope. Once you go below the line, because Crosby, Malkin, Lemieux, and Jagr class by themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
Once you go to the next group, there's a lot of people in that group. If you do it as a device to sell tickets, I get it. But I laugh at the Montreal Canadiens, and they're the hockey's most storied team, 24 cups, none since 93. They've retired 15 numbers. Their on-ice product has 13 players wearing numbers 40 or above. It looks silly. They retired Bob Gainey, the checking forward. They didn't need to retire the checking forwards number. Like, you got to be really selective, more selective than that.
Yeah, and I know where you're going with it insofar as, like, you're going to get into this weird nebulous area where there were so many Hall of Famers, many of whom made significant contributions, at times cup contributions to the Penguins. But, like, if Francis goes up, then does Recchi have to go up? And if Recchi goes up, then does have to Trottier go up?
An honor above the Hall of Fame. More than the Hall of Fame within the context of the franchise.
Yeah, I mean, like
the Penguins have, I think they have an in-house Hall of Fame. They used to have the Ring of Honor, which is now in the dressing room. There's other ways to honor players. Be selective with this.
Yeah, I mean, there are tons of guys like that. Mullen comes to mind. Robitaille comes to mind. Like Francis, all these guys.
Robitaille was only here for the 1 year, but yeah.
Yeah, that type of player. I'm talking about, a Hall of Fame.
And like with Flower, I would love it if they retired his number. But, he won 3 cups. He was only actually in goal for one of them. He never made first or second team All-Star while with Pittsburgh. He won his Vezina with Vegas. It's just, and again, there's nobody I like more personally or professionally, but excuse me while I choke to death, Tim. We do this too early in the morning for a 63-year-old. I would rather they be selective, and I won't be upset if they're not as selective.
So what team is Jake Guentzel going to go to, and how long before the Penguins honor him when he comes back?
Last night was awful, and last night was the confirmation. They're done as a contender, and they have been for actually over a year. But last night was a very grim reminder because they were horrible. And they got to trade Jake. No question about that. No question about that.
The line that you put out
on... If you're going to keep Jake the rest of the season and let him walk so Sid doesn't get angry, then bring Hextall back as GM because he can do crap like that. You can't handcuff Dubas. Dubas is brilliant. Let him do what he wants.
Well, Mark, going to the point that you made on Twitter, and unfortunately, this really doesn't change if Guentzel is in there. Like you said, only Sid's line is threatening. Nobody else is threatening. And that doesn't change if Guentzel is here because Gensel's on Sid's line.
Yeah, how about they had the Kenny the Kangaroo in the lineup last night?
Yeah.
What's that guy's name?
What was his name again? Marsh? Was that it? I can't remember what is the.
I don't know. I mean,
the new guy. Yeah, but he's like my size.
He's so small, Tim, you couldn't read his name on the back of the jersey. Okay, he looked like a fan who won a contest.
That's right. Win a shift with the Penguins.
Oy, yeah, it's a bad team. And it's not just bad because, it's not a good roster. It's bad because Evgeny Malkin's done.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Smith barely tries. Did you see him on the game-winning goal, the shorty?
Mm-hmm.
He was literally a revolving door. He spun in a circle. Okay, a lot of guys, Eric Carlson.
Yeah.
Man, guys who are supposed to be a lot better ain't.
Yeah, and I just don't know how they fix it. Phillips, by the way, is the kid's name. I'm trying to get his action.
They don't fix it. You can't fix it. And I got to give Sid credit. Scored the first goal in the game. What is it? 112 times in his career? At least somebody shows up to play every night.
Yeah, and that was a big kind of point of conversation, Mark, when Mike Sullivan spoke before the game up in the press conference room after Jagr. Somebody asked him about, the emotion of the night. Can you carry the emotion of the night? And they kind of did that early, but then, man, from about the middle of the first period on, after Sid scored, it was just like a stalemate for the rest of the game. And eventually,
I will give them credit, though. They didn't manage the lead. They had no offensive spark, so they tactically managed the lead. It didn't work, and I respect that. The problem with managing a lead defensively and dumping in a lot, which they did, undeniably, is that if the other team ties it, it's tough to reverse your own field and pick up the offense. I was going to say again, but they never did in the first place.
I want to hear from Penguins fans on the result last night, as well as the jersey retirement for Jagr. Post your comments, and we'll get to them once we're done talking about the Steelers, which we'll get to in just a second. One other hockey note, Mark, they play the Islanders next. They lost to the Rangers in the Stadium Series game. Your guy, Vince Trocheck, had 2 goals along the way.
Of course he did.
Yeah, and then Panarin won it in overtime.
Of course he did. Yeah, well, see, that's the problem, though. They're not going to catch, but the Islanders got a loser point.
Yeah.
I mean, the loser point, they're not going to win enough games to catch anybody. They're a bad hockey team. I'm tired of doing the math. I'm tired of going on the show every day and saying, well, they're 10 points out of third place, and they're 7 points out of a lot. They ain't catching nobody.
Let's get to the Steelers then, Mark, and some of the things we were talking about the podcast, certainly worth revisiting here today. And Peter King augmented some of that conversation today by ripping the Steelers for their approach at the quarterback position. Jerry Dulac, our partner at iHeartRadio, he sent out something last week which indicated that the Steelers are really not at all looking towards getting somebody to challenge Kenny Pickett at the quarterback position. I got somebody
they just want to get a backup if they get somebody from outside the organization, it seems.
Yeah, and I got somebody telling me exactly the same thing yesterday.
Like Tannehill.
Yeah, even Tannehill might be considered bold by them because of the Arthur Smith connection. That's just no way to live. Like, you don't make yourself intentionally thin at a position because you don't want to scare who the starter is.
I'll tell you what they should do, Tim. Here's what they should acquire. Be tough. I don't know where you go to get it exactly. They should go out and get precious little crybaby Kenny, a backbone or a set of testicles, and then go get a quarterback who can compete with him, who can challenge him, who can push him to be better. Because the way they're operating, the team has no ambition, and they're not even allowing precious little crybaby Kenny to have ambition.
It's almost as if, like, it's Mason Rudolph or bust, and Mason they can at least justify because he was here in the first place, and they can probably still get away with having him be the number 2 if Pickett, quote-unquote, wins the job, and then turn to him if they want to.
Well, Tim, it goes to what I said about the Steelers for years, and Tomlin for years. They would rather be right than win. It is more important for them to prove that they made the right choice selecting Kenny Pickett in the first round than it is to go get somebody who can challenge him and potentially make the team better. What they should do is go get Justin Fields and just make him the quarterback.
The only thing that I can see from this that you can justify as a positive would be that if they're going all in on Pickett and they're not giving themselves the option beyond Rudolph, they might not even do that. If they're not giving themselves the option beyond Rudolph, then perhaps, Mark, at least this year, it's all in or bust, and they don't wind up in the middle, and they don't push their way in at 9-8 because some AFC South team won in Week 17.
Pickett, they'll wind up in the middle.
You think Pickett is good enough to get them to the middle? I don't know that he is.
It might be an 8 and 90 type of middle, 7 and 10 type of middle, but he'll keep them in the middle. They're just a mad team. Finish middle, draft middle, stay middle. But here's what I'm looking forward to, Tim. And when I say there's a danger this could happen, when I say there's a danger, I am praying to all that's holy that it does. If he's bad, the dressing room's going to turn on him. And it's going to turn on the coaches and the GM too for letting this situation happen. The receivers are ahead of that game.
Yeah.
And I got a feeling. I just got a feeling. No inside information, Tim, but a feeling about TJ Watt and maybe Cam Hayward because they're being wasted.
You and I both heard separate conversations about the same rumor surrounding Deontay Johnson that they're reevaluating his future in Pittsburgh.
They're tired of him. That's the simplest way to put it. They're tired of him. They're tired of his attitude. And they're probably especially tired that regarding the quarterback that he might be right.
Yeah, because it seems to be that he wants Mason Rudolph, and you can understand why. I mean, the person that I talked to suggested to me that this whole internal division that Jerry had talked about is largely emanating from the receivers room because they want the quarterback that got them the ball successfully the last 4 weeks of the season.
Well, Tim, why wouldn't they? Seriously, the way Pickett played and the way Rudolph played, it makes zero sense to go back to Pickett. And I mean very seriously, 0 cents. Rudolph should get re-signed if you're not going to go get like Fields or whoever, right?
Yeah.
If you're going to bring back the same 2 quarterbacks, re-sign Rudolph. He's the starter going into camp, and he has to lose the job because Pickett lost it, Rudolph got it, and nothing happened when Rudolph played to change that. They're just automatically going back to Pickett because we have to be right.
Looking at Pickett and his situation as it relates to Johnson's comments, like if they were to move away from Johnson, I get it. There's reasons to do that. There's salary reasons to do that. There's productivity reasons to do that. The only thing is they don't have a third receiver, let alone a 2. You're creating a massive hole if you get rid of Johnson when you've already got a lot of other holes to address. I wonder how much that comes into play.
Yeah, I think receivers are easy to get, and I think you could get one almost as good at a cheaper price who wouldn't be a pain in the backside. Then again, does being right constitute being a pain in the backside? That, believe me, that's what bothers them the most is that he's right. And it doesn't sound like he's going to shut up about being right, does it?
No. Now, it's not like he said a lot during the offseason. Some people are speaking on his behalf here, but he did say something on the way out the door the last day he was there.
In all seriousness, I want to state again, especially to you idiots out there, you idiot Pickett marks who think that going back to him is the right move. There is no logical reason whatsoever, based on tape, based on stats, based on what we've seen, based on everything, to not bring Mason Rudolph back as the starter and Pickett the backup. There is no logical reason to not do that.
Well, Mark, I'll give you a for instance, all right? So I posted that story where I talked about what I was told about the wide receivers room. And I got some guy responding to me on Twitter saying, stir the pot, geez, try writing, son, something of importance rather than being lazy and going for clicks.
This isn't stirring the pot. This is citing the obvious.
That's what I'm saying. When I see fans talk about stirring the pot, that means you're telling me something that my delicate little Steeler fan ears don't want to hear.
Kenny Pickett stinks, okay? 3 words. Kenny Pickett stinks. That is the cold, hard, unpleasant truth. And if you won't accept it, that makes my job all the more fun when it comes to pass.
And when I hear somebody say you're going for clicks, it's not about clicks when it's just the truth. And furthermore, you don't have to click on it if you're so afraid of reading it, but that's what you're doing. You're just afraid of reading it because it violates your sensibilities as a Steelers fan.
Clicks. I mean, my God, my checkbook has enough clicks. Don't worry about my clicks.
This is Sean who says, it was awesome to see Jagr take the pregame skate with the team. I bet he wanted to keep the gear on and play. You said, Mark, was that the one thing you didn't like that you thought was getting a little too close to Carney?
Oh, no, I mean, I didn't like the mullet wigs. I think you have a team that is, is one step away from being just garbage in the standings. And you're out there, wearing mullet wigs. Him out there, I didn't mind. I thought it took away a little bit from the pop that he got at the end of the ceremony. Little bit. But Yags did a lot of this for his Czech documentary, too. And I'm sure getting out there for the warm-up. And I didn't have a problem with it. But, Tim, you know what not enough people are talking about? Not enough people are talking about this. I may start talking about this. I mentioned it. I'm going to talk about it a little more. The Penguins went to Las Vegas 4 days early. Partied down, had their rookie party. Canceled practice the day after the rookie party. The next day's practice, Erik Karlsson was under the weather. Didn't practice. They blew a lead in that game, lost in Arizona the next game, and have been crap ever since. Okay, when you're a borderline playoff team, you don't get to operate like it's 16 and 17. You don't get to go out to Vegas for a hootenanny days in advance. I understand the rookie party. I understand team bonding. I also look at you in the standings, and maybe that wasn't a good move.
Well, to that point, Josh says, Dubas stated change is coming. What can they possibly do to make any drastic change besides convincing some of the no movement clause guys?
When did Dubas say that? Did he say that last night? Did I miss that?
I don't know when he said it. I don't know when that was written as stated.
I believe Bob Dylan said, Tim, that the hard rains are going to fall.
But do you think he's wrong? I mean, like, I get the impression
Dylan,
that Dubas would like to make change, but I don't know of a way to get there either through the no movement situation.
I think the change will be made at the end of the season. And I got to tell you, the way this team's played for over a year now gets most coaches fired.
Yeah, and I wonder, again, to the point that we brought up with the Steelers about rather being right than changing things, like Dubas aligned himself so publicly, so quickly with Sully, I think, to tamp down any speculation. Is he fall under that tree now where he's got to be right about this?
No, that was a while ago. Kim, as I think I told you on the podcast, I've never been in a place where I'm not sure what the Penguins are going to do or what they should do, because you have to figure in that they're playing to 98% capacity even with this crappy team. And that's star power. Do you want to sell the star power, risk still being bad? In fact, you will definitely still be bad, but then some fans stop showing up.
Well, yeah, I mean, and, we've talked about the phrase nostalgia tour for a couple times now on this show and on the podcast as well. And it was great to have nostalgia last night from the 90s. I just don't think they want to be a living embodiment of it for the next 3 years.
I don't know about that. I mean, do I think Dubas does? No, I don't.
Right, because he wasn't part of the nostalgia. That's a big part. That's a big reason for it.
You know what would not shock me regarding the coach, by the way? If he's waiting for the Leafs to go out early and Sheldon Keefe to get fired.
Because he likes him so much.
Well, they work together in Toronto. I mean, I'm just saying. I think Sully's a real good coach. I think he's done here. I think he is not getting through to them even a little bit.
And he's probably too close to it.
In fact, I'll take that back, Tim. I watched them play, and especially the power play. I know he is not getting through to them even a little bit. Now, that's, doesn't make him a bad coach. It just means time's up.
Yeah, and it happened to Terry, and it happened to Bilesma. It happened to him. You win enough.
He's a much better coach than them two, but yeah.
You win this much with those guys, it's hard to crack down on them, and cracking down on them was the difference that got them over the hump in 16, I think.
Well, that Vegas thing's a big deal. That's where you tell them, whether it's Dubas or Sully or ownership, you tell them no, you're going to the day before like you always do.
Eric says, all joking aside, Jagr could really play on the bottom two lines, right?
No,
he couldn't.
He's 52. No.
Maybe stand in the right circle on the power play, but
he would be the first to tell you that too.
Malkin is washed. This is what Richard says. Malkin is washed and the bottom six is non-existent. You can't win being a one-line team. He also adds on the Steelers front, the wide receivers don't want Pickett as the starter because he can't get them the ball in stride, which unfortunately hurts their numbers because they get little in yards after the catch.
Well, here's the thing with Geno, okay? Geno is aged like a normal 37-year-old hockey player, whereas Sid and Letang have been preparing to play at 40 since they were 10. Now, Geno told, I think, Rossi that he still feels he has a lot of good hockey left in him. It ain't going to happen this year. He's done this year. If he really believes he has good hockey in him, he needs to have a summer like Sid, with the work, even a mental recalibration. He needs to be in better shape next year and spend all summer doing it. Do I think Malkin is willing to do that? No, I do not.
Well, I asked Jagr about those three guys and could they play into their 40s like he did, and he said Sid could, but he didn't mention the other two. So
yeah, I don't think he that's a slight to the other two. I think Yags identifies with Sid more because Sid's the man.
Calvin says, how much thought do you put into the Vegas odds of Fields coming to Pittsburgh? It's minus 120 right now. Next is Chicago at plus 300. When it comes to Vegas odds, always I just put into it what their math is as far as where they think they can take a profit. But they don't have any inside sources based, where Justin Fields going. Their source is the money.
They're trying to get money bet.
Yeah, how the money is going to come in, how they can induce cash flow.
To be fair, I'd bring him in. I'd bring him in and make him the starter.
Would you do it for a first-round pick?
Probably.
See, I wouldn't, but I don't think it would cost that either. I don't think Chicago's in all that great of a selling position for Justin Fields.
Tim, I think the Steelers are just a mess. I don't think there is a fix. Penguins are a mess too.
But then there's the Pirates, and hey, they'll eventually make Henry Davis a catcher after all now, right? And that will solve everything.
Boy, is that bad. I wrote a column about that. That you drafted a guy 1-1 and appear to never have had a discernible plan for him.
Sean says Riley Smith needs to go. Reminds me of Derek Brassard mentally checked out.
That's true. I agree with the comparison.
You do see, I actually think that Brassard wanted to come here and wanted to be here. He just wanted more once he got here. Riley Smith, I just don't think ever wanted
to
come
here. The
here.
guys don't like him either, to be blunt. I hear that everywhere. The guys don't like him. He's not involved with the team. He's mentally checked out.
Alex says, any thoughts on the World Cup final being held in Jersey at MetLife?
No.
This one comes from Ron. You just knew when the Kings tied it up, they would collapse.
Yes.
Yeah. The collapse was actually letting them tie it, and then the end was just about when does it happen.
You know what was weird? There were people on Twitter blaming Jari. Jari leads the league in shutouts. His goals against and save percentage are both top 6. He's having a brilliant year, especially given their shortcomings. And you can't blame the goalie when you only score 1 goal. You can't. And those goals weren't soft goals. They were unfortunate goals.
And then finally, Brian says, when the Penguins were winning 1-0, it felt like they were losing.
No, it didn't.
I mean, I actually think about it from the standpoint of absolutely any time the Penguins have a 1-goal lead, you feel like the biggest issue with it is that they didn't add on, not like they could keep the lead. Because defensively, Mark, they've been good. The goaltending's been good. Their goals against is good. Their inability to add on to a lead is maddening.
Well, and the other thing is, it always feels when they're ahead that if the other team ties it, they'll definitely win it.
And they're never going to get it. And they got the 1 goal in the power play. Asking for 2 in a game is just like, asking for it to rain candy.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see what they do with Guentzel. But, I mean, they got to trade him. If they don't, it's mismanagement. And if they don't, I won't believe that's what Dubas wanted to do.
All right, a little programming note here. We are not going to be here next week. Mark is in England. I'm in Vegas, so we're taking a week off. We will be back after that. I'm sure all the Penguins' problems will be fixed by the time we're on the air next. By the time you see us again, they'll figure out the Guentzel situation, and they will have rattled off about 5 straight wins, and we'll be close to first. Mark, 4th place. 4th place.
They could rattle off 5 straight wins. They still ain't making the playoffs. They're just not a good team, and I feel bad saying that. Like, nobody wants the Penguins to do better than me, but I know what I see, too. I mean, I'm not going to be like the guys who cover the Pirates. who are, I mean, like I heard the one guy who, like, he went, I forget who he was. I think he was with DK. I forget. Anyway, some guy was on the Fan, and he talked about Trevor Bauer. He says, well, the Pirates don't want a guy like that. Like, talking like he was guilty. Okay? And when he's been totally exonerated. And he said he didn't pitch well in Japan. The stats I saw, his ERA was under 2. And let me tell you something. And maybe I'm wrong. I just glanced and blah, blah, blah. But let me tell you something. I guarantee the champions of Japan would beat the Pirates in the best of 7-game series. I guarantee it.
Mark, what are you doing in England? You're going to see Liverpool play once or twice?
Well, this trip once. I'm going back in March to see 2 games at Anfield, Liverpool's home field. I'm going to Wembley in London, neutral site, to see Liverpool versus Chelsea in the Carabao Cup final. That's the least of the trophies Liverpool compete for, but nice to win something. It's a day out at Wembley. It'll be fun. Like, you fly into Heathrow, limo to the hotel. Hotel's 2 blocks from Wembley, right back. It'll be great.
All right, I want to say thanks to the folks at Rush to Crush again. More than a ride, it's a mission. Join us May 19th for the Rush to Crush Cancer bike ride. To register, go to rushtocrushcancer.org and help us in the fight against cancer. Join the ride.